So we're going to talk about negotiation and fiduciary duty, and these aren't necessarily synonyms, right? These are different concepts, but you really can't avoid the way that they just kind of intermesh in the real life practice as a real estate agent. If you're a new agent, you just finished classes for getting your license not too long ago, and there's a ton of conversation in there about fiduciary duty. In the negotiation, this is the easiest place to not live up to your fiduciary duty, right? So this is where really a high level of care and thought in how you have interactions and communication is a big part of how you live out your fiduciary duty to your client. Here's some examples of what I mean, and even before we go into this, there's really an infinite number of scenarios and approaches to this, and I highly encourage everyone to have some real detailed conversations with a mentor about how they handle it, how they handle themselves. This is part of how you develop your own style, your own techniques as an agent, is just how you handle those negotiations. Just some initial things to think about, right? Your buyer has shared with you what they want in a home, potentially what their offer price is. They may or may not have shared with you how much more they would be willing to go than their initial offer, or what other terms they might be willing to change. Things like maybe they could come in with more down, maybe they could have a bigger deposit, maybe they could have a shorter inspection period. All of these things that could make their offer more attractive, but do mean more risk to them as the buyer. With that in mind, you know all of these things. The listing agent is a great source of information for you to find out from a negotiation standpoint what would be useful for my buyer to know, like what's important to the seller, how much time do they need, how important is price, is there any willingness to budge, do they have other offers, have they rejected other offers, maybe they don't have some in now, but what types of offers have they rejected before and why? Getting feedback like that from the listing agent can really help you with your buyer. But the listing agent is going to ask you questions too, like how qualified is the buyer? How quick can they move? Are they able to qualify at full price? And so you want to be a little bit prepared and know where that line is about what you are going to share or not share. This exchange of information is really where the negotiations start. In some ways, asking good questions is a signal to the listing agent that, hey, this is an agent actually that's doing a good job for their client and probably going to be thoughtful to work with in this transaction. So maybe I feel a little bit more comfortable. They have to present your offer anyway, right? But it's just you've conveyed some confidence along with your offer by being proactive and asking those kinds of questions. But besides that, it's a good practice to have conversations with your buyer ahead of time about what they're comfortable with you sharing with listing agents and potential sellers. So they may not want the seller to know that their job starts next week and they absolutely need a place like right now, which might show them as being actually more motivated than they want to be perceived because they're coming in lower on the price. And if the seller knew these people absolutely have to be in like ASAP, then now you've just given away some of that negotiating leverage. But maybe it's a competitive market and you want to tell the sellers that maybe this buyer wants the sellers to know we are very serious. We need a house now, and that actually as a strategy might make you more likely to be accepted. That's great too, but you just want to have had that conversation with the buyer about what's their comfort level, right? Because your actions here are impacting them and their offer. So you may bring some strategies to the table. It's just a good practice to make sure your buyer is on the same page with that. The listing equivalent is seller is hiring you to market their property. You might tell them how you're going to market. You're going to show them the description of the property, and they may have feedback for you about how they want it conveyed to the world. Same with the buyer. They want a house. They have certain terms that are of interest, but they may, and they're hiring you to convey that, but they may want it done in a certain way, maybe a little bit different, maybe a lot different than how you would have approached it. Just making sure you're on the same page with the buyer is paramount. And then from there, there's a ton of other techniques that are worth talking about with a mentor. So hopefully that helps when we're talking about fiduciary duty, and really just make sure you're on the same page with your buyer and have those conversations. Thanks for watching. I hope this was helpful. If you learned something or if this helped you solve a problem, follow me for more.